5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, YouTube. I'm Dan Salem, live on the BuzzChomp YouTube channel, talking NFL. And this week, there were a lot of fights. It's almost week 10, and there were a lot of fights. We're going to be talking the NFL and sports. But first, I must go live on Facebook. And I'll click the button. 3, 2, 1. Hey, I'm Dan Salem. I am live here to talk with you about the NFL, and there were a lot of fights. I'm live on Facebook at the Dan Salem, live on YouTube, BuzzChomp's YouTube channel. I'm going to tweet this out at the Dan Salem on Twitter, and I'm going to hit the retweet button over on the BuzzChomp Twitter. That way a ton of you people can tune on in. And after this live stream at 5:30, I will be joining the View from Section 323, I believe that's the name of the podcast. Also talking the NFL and focusing on New York sports. Okay, let's tweet. The Twitter birds are flying. Hi, Maddie. Hi. Maddie's playing with the shark. Yep, it's cool. It's not a real shark. All right. So, multiple teams got in scuffles last weekend. Mike Evans got a 1-game suspension. AJ Green was not suspended, but as you can see from the cover image to this live stream, he literally was punching a man in the face. I can't understand how that would not warrant an ejection or a suspension. Now, no, I don't know. I don't know where the line is when players commit these things. I was witness to the 49ers Cardinals fight. It was a more traditional fight, as it was a lot of shoving and sort of punches being thrown, but sort of not, because players are wearing helmets, therefore you can't really punch anyone. But it was amusing to me, that particular one, because the refs threw their flags, and then the guy had to throw his hat because he ran out of flags. So I liked the hat throwing. I don't like the fights. They're stupid. Now, there's a common theme amongst the majority of these. The teams more or less involved are having less than stellar seasons. Arizona lost its 2 best players. So, yeah, it's hitting some roadblocks. 4-4 against the 49ers. Didn't want to lose that game. Kind of cheap shot in at CJ Beathard of San Francisco, the quarterback. And, yeah, that one, and that's more like you see it and you understand. But the AJ Green against the Jaguars, I don't get it. I mean, I know Cincinnati's season is not going as they planned. They're pretty much not going to make the playoffs at 3-5. I mean, I don't think they're not good enough. And Jacksonville's having the season everyone thought they might have for the last 2 or 3 years, finally doing it. But they were throwing punches. Like, this was like a legitimate fight, except I don't understand how people can think a fight makes any sort of sense when you're playing football. This is football. We are wearing helmets and pads. You can't hurt somebody with your fists. The game of football is designed so that you hurt somebody with your body. That's why you're padded. That's why they're padded. Hurt them on the next play. Freaking cheap shot them if you have to. But, no, I'm not going to condone cheap shots. I apologize. But my point is, you can cheap shot someone and get a penalty and hurt them a lot more than you can if you're trying to fight them with fists. Because as soon as you throw a punch that's supposed to be an automatic ejection, apparently the Bengals-Jaguars referees disagreed. Mike Evans got a suspension because Jameis Winston flicked the ear of somebody on the Saints, and then it flipped back around, and then Mike Evans got involved, and he must have thrown a punch and missed that video. I don't understand the logic behind these fights. But for Tampa Bay, who is struggling, Jameis Winston has been shelved because of injury. I guess their season's pretty much done. Now they play the Jets, who is my favorite team. Without their starting quarterback, without their star wide receiver, this is good news for New York. Now, I kind of pegged the Jets to beat Tampa Bay anyways, and this is a Ryan Fitzpatrick unredemption story game, which is amazing. But now without Mike Evans, because of the ear flick turned fight, I don't give them a shot. I mean, they stink now. Not quite as worse as the Giants, but they stink. The point is, this ripples into the next week. Like, Tampa Bay is seriously suffering now because of the fight. The Bengals, I don't know if they feel lucky that AJ Green wasn't suspended, but I mean, it doesn't help the Bengals, and it doesn't help the Jaguars either. Like, having a fight doesn't really galvanize the team like you'd think it would. I guess you want to stand up for your guys, but like, it's weird because you're always fighting at every play during the game of football. So then, when it spills over and there is a fight, it injures the team because there's penalties and there's ejections and there's suspensions. No one's happy about that. You're not like, yeah, good job for fighting, dude. No, you're like, you idiot, you got us a penalty. You idiot, you're suspended now. We can't play with you. It's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. And it's going to affect the Week 10 action. But they are what they are. They happened. Had an article up written for NFL Spin Zone. I think it went up today, but I'm not positive. It might go up tomorrow morning. My brother and I debating it. He's a fan of the fights. And, I mean, as a guy, you kind of like fights. But NFL fights are quoted, air quoted for a reason, because they're stupid and they're not good and they're dumb. Apparently the college football top 5 holds steady, which seems odd to me. Mike Evans tried to appeal his suspension. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen, dude. You got in a fight. You were going to miss that game. All right. Now, key here. Oh, did I not hit retweet? I thought I hit retweet. All right, I'm going to retweet now. Oh, freaking trade reactions. Whatever. So, last week saw quite a bit of blowouts. Let me review the scores real quick here. Jets beat the Bills. Now, I knew the Jets were going to win against Buffalo. I pegged them before the season started that they win both games, but Buffalo is better than I thought. At home, I understand. But the Jets were at home in this game, so short week, the home team gets favored. But I did not expect the Jets to actually blow out the Bills. The final score was not indicative of the actual game because the Jets tend to give up a lot of fourth quarter points, which is going to bury them as the season goes on if they have any hopes of the playoffs. We'll get to that in a moment. But they totally embarrassed Buffalo. The Bills didn't show up to play, which is ridiculous. It's a division game, and you need every victory to try to topple the Patriots. But Jets blew them away, and they're on track my best case scenario. They're on track with it, which is kind of awesome. Rams blew out the Giants again. Giants coming off a bye, playing at home. I expected a closer game. I didn't expect the Giants to win, but 51-17. Wow. Go LA Rams. The Ravens-Titans game was as close as I expected as well, which is why in my best picks for the week, I chose Baltimore +9 because I knew it would be a close game. It came down to a field goal. Baltimore actually was in a decent position to almost win it there at the end of the game. Those are pretty even teams with 4-5 Ravens, 5-3 Titans. They're like neck and neck. I don't think 9-7 is going to get the playoffs this year, so I don't think either team's going to cut it. But it's hard to say, with all these teams looking so even, if anyone will actually be able to separate themselves from the pack. The Saints certainly have, as they decimated the Buccaneers, whose season is over at 2-6. Saints 6-2, 6 games in a row they've won. They are totally separating themselves in the NFC South. Now, Carolina's hanging around, but I have a feeling that this will be a 2-playoff team division again this season, and unless something drastic changes, it will not be the Falcons. They will miss it. Broncos got embarrassed by the Eagles. The Eagles are rolling. They were at home, and the Broncos really stink. I don't know what happened to their defense, but it's not very good, which makes me feel good about when the Jets play them in several weeks because I no longer fear Denver. I wasn't sure about them when the season began. Then they owned it for a month, and now they suck. So they're probably about an 8-8 team. I'm not afraid of them at all, and their quarterback situation is worse than my team's, which is saying something. Really saying something. Brock Osweiler has a starting job again, and he's not doing a good job again. Surprise, surprise. Panthers beat the Falcons. Those are 2 even teams. I don't know what's going on with Carolina because they traded Kelvin Benjamin. They kind of mustered up 20 points, but they're winning every game close, and I don't see that really holding for the season. I think that, maybe this year they win every game close. Last year they lost every game close, which is why they had a really bad record. But I mean, at 5-3, I just feel like or 6-3. I apologize. They are just every game's close. I don't know if they're going to get over the hump. I don't know because they traded away their best wide receiver. I think they're a peg behind the playoff teams at this point. Jacksonville, I'm impressed. The Bengals, though, stink. Jacksonville, I say I'm impressed, but then the Jets beat them, and the Jets almost beat themselves, but they were really taking it to Jacksonville because, again, the Jets can't play in the fourth quarter. I don't know about the Jags. I think that they have that division, but, again, it's a bad division. I think they're going to be a really early playoff exit, but if they make the playoffs, that's a huge success for Jacksonville. They need they need something. Something's missing there. Their defense, whoa, but something's missing for that team right now. The Colts managed to win only because they played the Texans, who did not sign Colin Kaepernick, and trotted out Tom Savage? No, that doesn't sound right. Doesn't matter. They trotted out their backup quarterback, and he just is not Jameis. He's not Deshaun Watson. I apologize, not Jameis. He's not Deshaun Watson, who is incredible. He's a backup quarterback. Yeah, I think it is Tom Savage. Colin Kaepernick, he's got a lot of the same intangibles that Watson has, the legs, the vision. I mean, he obviously is going to be very rusty, having not played in the game this year, and he's keeping himself in shape, but he wasn't in any training camp. So, I mean, you can't really – it'd be tough to grab him and insert him right away, but I gotta believe that's better than Savage. Like, I know he started your first game of the season, but it's not the same team. Like, they would have absolutely crushed the Colts with Deshaun Watson. They just had the air knocked out of their sails, and they lost by 6. Neither of those teams have anything going this season anymore. Cardinals are hanging on at 4-4, but they needed everything to beat the 49ers. I mean, I don't think that Arizona can really take themselves back to the playoffs without David Johnson and Carson Palmer. I just don't see it happening. I'm happy the Redskins beat the Seahawks because I like the Redskins. I think they can if they keep getting better, they will make the playoffs. But that's a big if because Dallas and Philadelphia are owning the East. The Seahawks, I don't like them. They they're another team that's lose a little, win a little. Like they barely beat the Texans. No, they barely lose to the Redskins. They barely beat the 49ers. They're just playing to their opponent, and that's a recipe for disaster. I think that they missed the playoffs. Cowboys beat the Chiefs. I've been impressed with Dallas. They're kind of like stepping it up because every game might be Ezekiel Elliott's last, and he's been on fire. But you can win with running the football, and they beat Kansas City. That was a really impressive game to me. Scored every single quarter Dallas did. Again, they're at home, and that helps. Oh, someone's laughing over there. Funny. But Kansas City and Dallas are both good teams. I think as long as Elliott keeps playing, they'll both make the playoffs. I don't know. That's a big if. And then I'm not surprised that the Dolphins lost. I was surprised. I guess they're at home, so it was only 3 points. They barely beat the Jets at home. Like the Raiders are a better team, but they're not good. And the Dolphins stink. Like they're like the worst 4-4 team there is. Like their point differential is atrocious, and it's like -60 or something. They managed to win 4 times. It's unbelievable. And then the Lions hanging around because Green Bay has no Aaron Rodgers, so that's that. I want to take a look at this week's games only because I like to look ahead. And in terms of fantasy football, sorry Mike Evans owners, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is not really a good quarterback to rely on getting your guys points, and now Evans is suspended. I wouldn't count on A.J. Green going forward either, only because Cincinnati, they're falling apart at the seams. I would tell you, though, that Josh McCown is a good fantasy quarterback this year. Also, C.J. Beathard, I grabbed him, and he was amazing last weekend. And he's got another great matchup against the Giants this week. I think I'm going to start him over Phillip Rivers, who plays, I think they play the Vikings. That's a stout defense. You got to play the matchups. And it's been tough this season, so many injuries. The running back position outside of Zeke and Gurley and a couple other guys is extremely unpredictable. Wide receiver up and down, it's really hit or miss. You got to get the guys with the targets. But these fights and then these quarterback injuries are really throwing a wrench into fantasy. Some teams you just can't rely on any receivers. Can't rely on any of the Giants receivers. I guess. Hey, Maddie, love you. That's fantasy, yeah. I mean, like, I feel like you can't rely on the Seattle receivers, even though Russell Wilson's getting his. It's just too. Some of these teams are not. They don't have an identity yet, so you can't rely on these fantasy players. You just gotta hope and pray that they get you enough points to win. Speaking of Seattle, they play the Cardinals Thursday night. That's a good matchup because Arizona's defense ain't great. But again, which receiver for Seattle will be the one? I don't know. It's really like Doug Baldwin and Jimmy Graham's getting a little. I guess Doug Baldwin's the one that you can rely on. Everyone else is a toss-up. And then I got Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, he's been getting his numbers. He hasn't really found the end zone, but he's good for 7.70 yards, so that's something. Giants 49ers, like I said, I like CJ Beathard fantasy in that game just because the 49ers are home. I think they'll get their first win. The Giants seem to have quit on the year. It's unbelievable. Nobody on the Giants is worth a fantasy look. Maybe Darkwa because they're running with him quite a bit. But the 49ers win at home. Saints Bills. I actually think New Orleans steals this game on the road. They have been playing amazing defense. Buffalo looked like out of sorts last week against the Jets. Now, I know they needed to bounce back. They had a mini bye here, and they're at home. And Kelvin Benjamin's going to be inserted. But New Orleans' defense is enough to slow them down. And I don't know if Buffalo can really stop what the Saints are doing. I think this is going to be, like, both have great defenses and both have really powerful offenses. This is going to be a close football game. But I like the Saints because they just seem to have the momentum right now. Packers-Bears is a freaking toss-up game, I guess, because Chicago's at home. I'm going to give the edge to the Bears. Can't believe I'm saying that, but the Packers are not the same with their backup quarterback. It's just not even close. Browns-Lions. Lions roll. Browns stink. Thank you, because I got Matthew Stafford on my fantasy team. Bengals-Titans. That's Tennessee's. They're at home, and the Bengals are nothing. The Bengals are nothing. They've had a couple of good weeks, but this is not going to be one of them. Steelers Colts. This is going to be another laugher for Pittsburgh. I do not know what the Colts are doing. It seems like dissension. They're not going to win. The Pittsburgh beats them. Jets Bucks. Buccaneers are falling apart. The Jets are going to hand it to Fitzpatrick. No Mike Evans. This is a New York Jets victory. Granted, they like to give up fourth quarter points, so maybe it's a 7-point victory or a 10-point victory, but this will be the Jets victory. Gets them back to 500. Vikings Redskins. If these teams had better offenses, it'd be like one of the games of the week. But this is still exciting. Washington's at home. I think they find a way to beat Minnesota. I mean, I like the Vikings personally better, but I think the Redskins find a way to win at home. They need it more. Chargers, Jaguars. I hope the LA Chargers win, but the Jacksonville Jaguars defense has been just stifling, and they are, again, at home. And so home field advantage, I do believe, is a factor at this late juncture of the season, week 10. Texans, Rams. Rams are going to absolutely humiliate Houston. Rams are at home. And then Cowboys, Falcons is a tough one to call. I believe Ezekiel Elliott will play. I believe this will be high scoring. And I believe the Cowboys get the win on the road because Atlanta is just not as good as last year. And the Cowboys defense has been getting better. Patriots are going to whoop up on Denver on the road. Unless the Denver Broncos defense miraculously turns a corner, this is going to be a Patriots victory. And then the Dolphins at the Panthers. This is. I know I'm questioning the Panthers, but no, the Dolphins they don't have anything left. This is the beginning of the end for Miami's season. So, fights. Okay, so there's just the fights. Just I don't even know where to begin with the fights. But then, okay, there's a quote. Apparently, the Colts coach said the Andrew Luck injury is in his head. The Colts suck. Andrew Luck would not. He would be crazy to get on the field for this team this year. So, if it's in his head, it's because he's being smart and saying, I'm not going to play for a losing team and risk my career when I have a potentially great one ahead of me. Sorry, not sorry, Colts, but you stink. Like, what kind of headline is that? You back your player up. Don't throw him under the bus. Or say, is that the owner? Whatever that is. I don't know. Someone's got to sign Colin Kaepernick now. There's been too many freaking quarterback injuries. It's really crazy, and then no one signed him. Maybe because they just think he'll be too cold coming off the bench like this. Hell, Garoppolo's still sitting, but Rookie Beathard, TJ Beathard for San Francisco. That rookie, I like him. Like, I don't know if he's a long-term answer, but he's been playing pretty well for a team that they don't have any weapons left. They had so many injuries. So, I mean, I know they went and got Garoppolo, but Beathard's no snooze button. He's not like a flashy name. He looks older than he is, but I kind of like what he's been doing. This is interesting. Week 10 of the season, that means there are 8 weeks left, and we've played 9. Wow. So we've crossed the halfway point. Eagles are the obvious semi-surprise of the year. They're a lot. I thought they'd be good. No, not this good. I thought Wentz would be good, not this good. I thought they'd improve, but so far 8-1 is a huge improvement. We'll see if they can keep it going and finish with like 12 wins or more. Seems like it. I don't know who's going to stop them. I'm happy about my Jets. I did a best-case scenario before the year began, and they're off by 1 game. It's pretty damn good. I had picked every game right except for week 1. I had them beat Buffalo. And that was a game that was much closer than the final score would indicate. So far, so good. I'm Dan Salem. I'm talking the NFL. I'm live every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific on YouTube's BuzzChomp channel and over on Facebook at the Dan Salem. I'm going to join an NFL New York-focused podcast with a couple of guys I went to high school with, which is kind of amazing, reconnecting after all these years, and they do an awesome NFL-inspired podcast. I will share it on my Facebook once it is available. We are recording it tonight, talking Week 10, Week 9, Fallout, and the Jets and Giants, who are in opposite places. All right, I'm Dan Salem, live every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific. Thank you for joining me. I will be back next week on Facebook. Peace out. Oh, I gotta click the button. It's hard to click the button. And on YouTube.